Hi everyone. So I want to go over an action research project, again looking at elements that are expected of the research project and how you will begin your grouping and give some reflection for you as we go through. So the first thing is talking about what is action research. As it states from your text, Improving Schools Through Action Research by Hendricks, action research is a series of steps in which the action researcher reflects, acts, and evaluates. So again, that is going to be on something that is a problem, an issue for you, or something that you want to develop your practice. If you continue to read in your text, Hendricks really talks about that the action research stems from something that you want to improve in your practice, something that you want to gain more knowledge on, to deepen an understanding. So you need that mindset coming into it, is what is it that interests me that's either a problem in education or implementing a new something in a school environment as well. So you'll see the image here, which I think is a great image of an action research cycle. Those questions, if you follow that cycle, where are we now? Where do we want to be? So those really are questions to help you start considering what is your problem, what is that issue, what is it that you want to develop, and then how will you get there, and setting a question, being clear on that question too, because it will guide your literature review and the next steps in your action research. And then the action there, explore, challenge, plan, and trial. So literature then goes into that, saying, now that I have this question, let me get an understanding to then develop how I will challenge or plan or set up a trial, getting into that reflection and implementation, and then the next step question of where do we go from there. So action research really is connecting to you and to deepen your practice through a set question, possible secondary questions, and research in the literature review component, setting up a plan. Be honest with you, your plan here is going to be most probably more in the surveying of individuals, really focusing questions on what the plan is that you want. Can include students as well as teachers, family members, community members, other administrators. So just things to think about as thinking about that problem, again, really affecting the school environment. So I'm going to go into each of the chapters. Please understand for your first set of courses, 580 or 581, that you really are looking at chapters 1, 2, 3. But I'm also going to talk a little bit about chapter 4 because that's the 605 class, the completion of your action research project. First thing I need to be clear on this is that this is a collaborative capstone project. Concordia's expectation is that you work as a group. And again, the quote there from Helen Keller, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. The other aspect of this is getting the work done is a little bit easier when you can divide it up once you have an organized plan and are accountable to another classmate as well. So if you think that you need to pursue the possibility of having an individual action research, please communicate with me immediately. We have to give an application for that and get approval from the university. Their focus truly is on being collaborative. So best to start looking at the problems others are sharing and see how you might compromise on that or accent each other to really create a question that can get both pieces or issues addressed that are out there as we go through. So the first thing to think about in action research is to look at interest groups. And that's the point of the discussion board in sharing your problems, is really putting it out there. What is the problem that you see or would like to further investigate? What's the issue at hand? What is it something that you want to change? And listing that idea on the discussion board. And your responses to your fellow classmates should really focus on either clarity or how you can work together, because the goal is to find this interest group to then build and form your research group or your action research group together. So very important that you communicate and build that understanding. Even in discussion boards, since we don't have the face-to-face, ask the questions. And again, always communicate through email with other groups as well. But I definitely want to see that conversation happening on the discussion board about your problems and issues to really create the interest groups. Because our goal is by week 2 to really find out who our groups are and start pursuing to create that question and plan for our action research. So chapter 1 in the action research is really about the problem. You're going to state the information, might give some literature citations to help say this is why this is a problem, what's the research telling you about it, or even citing data from your own school site as well that supports the problem too. But here the research interest groups will be formed within our weeks 1 and 2, as I've said. Your groups collaboratively will develop that overarching problem. So again, you want to think, I don't want to say too broad that it's going to not be obtainable, or the research will be longer than we need. So we're thinking really about a research plan that's about 3 weeks, 4 weeks at the most, and then having to analyze that data. We have to be minded of the timeframes there. So overarching and the purpose and the desires of the outcomes have to be clearly stated. What is it that you want to gain from this? What is it that you believe you are going to gain from it? And you as a group, you'll notice in the next assignment, will be creating plans individually. That gives me the insight into how you're seeing your problem. But I should see some similarities of, again, that overarching problem and then the purpose and outcome. So questions are developed by the group. You're going to have one primary question, the idea of looking at a secondary question. I would say at the most 2 secondary questions, but really the primary question should drive what your lit review is doing, but you might find other things that come up to create a question from what your literature is telling you as well. So chapter 2 is the literature review, and that really is developing an outline of what you want to review. I'm going to say this up front. You want to review everything that's going to guide you in your process and your plan, either in a positive for it, but I would say you also want the lit review, a portion to give caution to what you're doing. So that way it shows that you're being minded that we understand that there are other elements here. It's not all sunshine and roses. There could be some pitfalls as well in putting that out in the lit review. Don't get caught up in it, but make sure you got something supporting that counter to what you're really trying to formulate there. Now, it's very clear in the literature review, this is part of that collaborative piece, that each member is responsible for a portion or a group. Doesn't mean that we don't share articles with our collaborative group, but you really want specific individuals researching that as we go through. And the research interest groups collaborate to formulate the literature review and reference pages. So then you're going to take what one person has written, another person has written, and bring it together, or that third person if it's 3 in the group. Remember, you want a one voice in this, in that third person point of view, but very important that it's brought together. Using your headings and other pieces, transitions can be helped through that. And definitely now working on your reference page. Don't save that to the end. If you've used 10 articles, start building your reference page that you can bring together from everyone, because we're looking for 20 to 30 bottom line minimum references. Doesn't mean there can't be more through this process. Chapter 3 looks at really what's our plan. You know, what's the plan? They also like to call it the intervention. You'll read that in your text as well. How will we collect the data? What are we going to do to make sure we're valid in the way we're collecting our data, and understanding how to be confidential and getting permission through the informed consent. You'll see the word individual here. That doesn't mean individual research, action research project on your own. This is really saying what individuals, what roles will you play? Am I going to be the one to analyze the data, collect the data? Am I going to be the one to get the consent? Really understanding what those roles are. Am I the one that's actually doing the invitation if it's a survey to all individuals, even though we'll all be looking at that data together? Very, very important. You notice here data collection tools, the reflection journal. I would tell you to start getting used to writing down your process. Right now, I think in a Google Doc would be appropriate. You're welcome to invite me to the doc so I can see. I'll definitely need to see that in the next class as we go through. So it's not a requirement now, but knowing that that's going to be something that you're going to build into helping that validity piece. Knowing about interviews, surveys, observations, assessment. I'm going to tell you observations and assessment really will depend on what your problem or issue is as we go through. So that would complete what's expected for this class. The 580, 581 class would be chapters 1, 2, and 3. We want to talk about chapter 4, which is the really getting into 605 once you're implementing and have the approval after you've completed the IRB. and had not the district, I apologize, the university say, it's a go. Chapter 4, you're really going to collect, operate the intervention, it's survey, whatever it is, can't be done until you have approval again from the university. But then you're going to send out that surveys, send out questionnaires, do some interviews, and then start pulling that together to create an analysis of what it's telling you. Did it agree with what the literature was saying? Does it disagree? Again, disagreeing doesn't mean that you failed. Disagreeing says you've actually found out the information that you needed to make and improve your practice. The whole point of action research is improving your practice. And then again, cross-analysis, you'll discuss that in your chapter 3. There'll be more of it in your readings as well. And then conclusions, and also knowing that you're going to give recommendations for further research. And if you don't have that, sort of questions the whole project in and of itself, because thinking about your question, it shouldn't be so narrow that we aren't going to have more questions from it as well. The groups I've worked with before, they really do come up with those questions of like, oh, or thoughts this could have been altered to find out more information as well. So it really truly is a process. So that's the overview of action research and the 3 chapters, and then the 4th chapter for 605 that's expected. Very important to understand it's a collaborative and that you're going to have to work with others and keep each other accountable. I understand that we're all overwhelmed in our day-to-day jobs and those pieces, but very important here because this can get overwhelming if you don't keep with it. That's the whole reason for the dates that are given, is that you follow through on that as well. Thanks, and I hope you have a great day or great evening.